Teacher, I want to improve my English, but I notice that I make mistakes and people don't correct me. Why is that? Why are Australians or why native speakers do not correct me when I make a mistake? You know, this is an interesting question, and I feel that there are many reasons why this might be the case. Why non-native English speakers or international students or migrants, basically why we are not being corrected by Aussies. The point is why people don't correct you. So I think reason number one has to do with the fact that Australia is very diverse. So there is people from all around the planet in here. And what that means is that Aussies are probably used to not always hearing that perfect Australian English like, yeah, g'day man, how you going? Yeah, I mean, quick side note, that is usually more common when you are going outside of the biggest cities, maybe more like in the country. But again, it can get more complicated and that's a different topic. So coming back to what I was telling you, again, because we have people from so many different parts of the world, having a bit of an accent, mispronouncing a word a little bit here and there, and if that doesn't impede communication, I suppose that maybe a lot of Australians are gonna be like, oh yeah, no worries, mate, who cares? Like, I know what this person is trying to say, that's all good. That's one reason. But I feel that another thing, going a bit beyond the fact that they understand us, is also that even though Australians are also very relaxed and they're known for this no worries, for this very laid back type of lifestyle, at the same time, Australians are also very polite. So for someone to go out of their way to like correct you when you are talking about anything, it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be because we are making such a big mistake. Maybe we are mispronouncing something and it sounds like a bad word, or maybe it's like, it has to be like something very wrong, or it has to be up to the point where, again, maybe it could be rude for someone else, and obviously maybe that person knows we are not trying to be rude. And a good example of this could be the word beach, right? Oh, last week I went to the beach, or this beach is amazing. And you're probably laughing now because you know what's the word that would be if I mispronounce this, right? Maybe YouTube is going to, you know, like not monetize my video or whatever. I mean, I'm not monetized yet, but the other reason, and I feel that the other reason is that they just simply don't mind. Maybe for them it's not such a big thing. Maybe as learners, a lot of the times we are really tough on ourselves. I can tell you, I am saying we because that is me. Maybe if you're watching this, maybe you are like that too, maybe. And say for example, when it comes to me with learning, if I make a mistake, even if it is a tiny thing, you know, I think about it. I try to not think about it too much, but it is always there in my head, like I made a mistake, I have to fix that, or I need to be careful with this grammar point. And it changes, right? I guess this whole, you know, expectation can happen because we think, okay, oh, look at that, beauty of Australia right here. I think it could be because maybe in our languages we are very proficient, we're really good in our languages, and we want to be that good in English. But a lot of people, or maybe it could be English, in my case could be with Japanese or something else, but maybe people do not know that. And for them it's like, who cares? I understand you, you sound good, communication is happening, and unless it is a big mistake, then maybe they won't correct you. Before I tell you my take on this, when it comes to me correcting people learning Spanish, I only correct people when they speak Spanish in two situations only. I don't do it without thinking too much, but because, you know, working as an English teacher, and because this is something that happens regularly. Sometimes students telling me, oh, please, I want you to correct me more, or if I make a mistake, tell me. The reality is that for different reasons, I wouldn't just correct someone. I would only do it under two scenarios. But before I tell you these two scenarios, I'll tell you one tip. Hopefully this gives you a bit of peace of mind. It is something that really helped me when it comes to, or when I start thinking about improving my English, improving my Japanese, and basically getting more practice out of any interaction. And it was thinking, okay, let me just pay close attention to whatever the other person is saying. Because I know, for example, that when I'm talking to Aussies, or like if I know that I'm talking to Japanese people, they will not go out of their way to correct me for whatever reason. Instead of thinking about me or the struggle of the pronunciation or the grammar point, what I do is I carefully listen to whatever they say back to me. So if there is a difficult word, for me, in English, what I try to do is just pay double, triple attention. I have to be like super focused on whatever that is. So yes, the key point is listen carefully, because when you listen to whatever is difficult for you, that could help you, that input of like listening to whatever people say that it's difficult for you, I feel that it may help you to slowly start, let's say, working your way up, in the sense that you will make that mistake less. Look, maybe that, let me know what you think in the comments about that tip. And the other two scenarios where I would stop someone in Spanish is actually, it's three. One has to be when people ask. So if we are talking in Spanish and I know that this person wants to learn Spanish, I know that, for example, when it comes to articles, prepositions, plural nouns, or when it comes to verbs, especially like verb tenses, anyone learning Spanish will struggle a bit with that. And if that person is asking me, then I'm happy to just tell them or correct them, like, oh, it's not, I don't know, it's not this, it's that, it's not el, it's la, it's not una, it's un, and the list could go on and on, right? It's not like ayer comer, it's ayer comí, but it all depends on context and it depends on the person asking, right? The other one is the same example I told you before. If I know that this person is making a big mistake, sometimes you would be surprised. It could be a bad word, it could be something that it is said in another country, and I know that, oh, for example, if, let's say, hypothetically speaking, I know that someone says something that could have a bad meaning in another country, and this is where it gets complicated. Like, a lot of my students and a lot of my friends here in Melbourne are from Colombia. So while I'm not Colombian, I've got a good idea of what you should or shouldn't say, or what you should be careful with. So even if it is in a playful way, you want to avoid any possible miscommunication. So if there is anything that people would say, and then it's like, okay, that could have a problem in whatever country, I would tell them. Or sometimes it's like maybe just talking to them, and I would say, look, be careful with that word, because that word is not used in other countries. But it really depends. I'll give you one example with something nice and friendly and funny, let's say like fruits, right? For example, in a lot of Latin America, Spain, I would say almost everywhere from Mexico all the way to Peru and Spain, people use the word fresa for strawberry. But maybe there is someone who learned Spanish in Argentina and they will not say fresa, they will say frutilla. And that's okay, there is nothing wrong with saying one or the other. But maybe, you know, what I would do is, if I hear someone saying that word and they know that I'm not from Argentina, I would maybe tell them, hey, you know, just so that you are aware of the fact that a lot of people don't say frutilla, most people will say fresa. Or sometimes even people just ask, what is that? What does that mean? I guess that's an interesting bit that Spanish has, where a lot of different words can be used. A lot of different countries have got a different way of saying something. It's not to the point to say it's a different language, but it is just, I guess, something that will help anyone learning, going, okay, just the same way we said before. In America, people say parking lot, but in Australia, people say car park. Okay. And probably the only other time, so we talked about making a big mistake, being a bad word, be it with miscommunication. The other one is when maybe people when people ask, you know, and it's not like to do it all the time. And the other thing where I would probably stop someone is if, you know, whatever they're saying doesn't really make sense, because there is a grammatical error, or maybe because of pronunciation it is not very clear. But other than that, I wouldn't stop someone, or correct someone. And as I am making this video right now, I thought of another reason. And we need to take this with a grain of salt, and please, this is going to hurt our feelings. Sometimes when we are learning another language, we need to understand that maybe we are not as good as we think we are, and we are making a lot of mistakes. So let's say that, you know, let's say with me and Japanese, maybe I think my Japanese is amazing. Then I go to Japan, and on every sentence I speak, I have a tiny mistake, a tiny mistake, a tiny mistake. Communication can happen, but it's going to be so weird if in every sentence that I'm talking to someone, they say, Emilio-san, it's not like this, it's like this. Emilio-san, it's not like this, it's like this. It's not like this, it's like this. I think what could also happen is, like, we as learners, we could be overwhelmed when it comes to all these mistakes that we make. This reminds me of my students, because when we get together and we check their IELTS essays, for example, or their PTE writing, basically when looking anything about writing and with speaking too, I'm giving them feedback, and I tell them, look, do not be discouraged, because the first piece of writing that we check is not full of errors, but you're gonna see a lot of comments, a lot of things, a lot of marks. And the same thing is sometimes when we're doing PTE on the speaking section, and the computer is listening to, it's analyzing what a person said, and then, you know, we get a low score, like a 30, a 20, maybe a 10 even, and then it's like, oh my God, I have like 20, 30 mistakes, the computer doesn't understand me, my English is terrible, and then we get a big hit in our confidence, right? Because it's like, oh, I've got so many mistakes. I guess that might be another reason why people don't correct you. But also, I would just wrap up this video telling you this final message. We need to understand that learning a language takes time, that depending on your goals, you're going to be making a lot of mistakes at the beginning, usually, and then over time, there will still be mistakes, but maybe it's going to be for more specific things. Look, I know it is tricky. A lot of the times, when I'm making a mistake, a part of me is like, I wish they corrected me, or like I know what I'm saying is incorrect and people may not tell me, but that's okay, because there is a place for that correction. If you're watching this, maybe you already know I work as an English teacher. I help students improve their skills, pass IELTS, pass PTE, and basically polish their English. Call it pronunciation, call it writing practice, call it improving so that if you feel stuck, you can keep going up. Then I would highly recommend you get in touch. In the description of this video, I'm leaving you my Patreon page. A lot of students join the page to study with me. It could be a bit of like self-study with extra support, where you have a lot of materials to practice and the guidance of a teacher who can tell you, okay, you should do this, you should try this. Oh, okay, you're doing your exam in 6 months, maybe check this out, maybe watch this playlist, do these activities, and it is a good way to do so. Now, maybe you're watching and you think, Emilio, how about if I want to study with you? Do you offer classes? Look, the answer is yes, I do. Get in touch. Again, I'm putting here in the description all that information. Usually, I do one-on-one classes as well as group lessons, sometimes webinars. So I'm usually quite active on social media. What I use the most is Instagram and Facebook as well. So feel free to get in touch using any social media and check out the social media, because I'm always putting when a new course comes up. For the time being, there might be a course coming up in October, but this will be an intensive course. Still not 100% confirmed, so let's say stay tuned in, because again, I'll be putting all the updates here on YouTube, on Instagram. And the last bit is that if you know anyone who needs to translate a document because maybe they need to stay in Australia by extending a visa, maybe they have to apply to uni or something happened and they need to get a document from their country into Australia. I am a NATI certified translator, so if you need a translation, or maybe if you need to send something to your country, or maybe you want to go with your partner or someone and you need a document translated into Spanish, I can also help you with that as well. And with that note, I will leave you. I know it can be frustrating when native speakers do not correct us, but remember, it is a journey, and I hope that if you're watching this, you get that takeaway from this video. And if you want me to help you in your IELTS, in your PTE journey, again, in the description we've got all the different ways I can help you out. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like, a thumbs up, all those things that you know you should do to help the channel. Of course, share this video with a friend, and that's it. Now, I literally have to start packing up and run to go to class. So thank you for being with me, and keep learning that language. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.